Book 4, Chapter 8 of The Female Quixote, Volume 1. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information, or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Bob Neufeld. The Female Quixote, by Charlotte Lennox. Book 4, Chapter 8, which contains some necessary consequences of the foregoing mistakes. A soliloquy on a love letter. While Arabella passed her time in her closet in the most disagreeable reflections, Glanville was racking his brain to find out the meaning of those mysterious words she had uttered at leaving him. He examined them 20 times over, but could not possibly penetrate into their sense. But, supporting at last that they really meant nothing at all, or were occasioned by some new flight of her imagination, he went to find out his father, in order to know what had passed between him and Arabella. Sir Charles, however, was not to be found. He had ordered his horse to be made ready, under pretence of taking a little ride after dinner, and, passing by Sir George's house, alighted to pay him a visit. The young baronet, being at home, received him with great politeness, and Sir Charles, whose peculiar disposition was to be nicely tenacious of everything which he imagined had any relation to the honour of his family, took the first opportunity to question him concerning the confusion his whisper had occasioned in Lady Bella, adding that she had confessed he had given her reason to take ill at what he had said to her. Sir George, who was by no means willing to quarrel with the uncle of Arabella, received the old gentleman's remonstrances with a great deal of calmness, and finding Arabella had not discovered the purport of that whisper which had offended her, he told Sir Charles that the confusion he saw in her countenance was occasioned by his rallying her upon the fright she had been in upon Mr. Glanville's account. He added some particulars to this account, that, entirely taking away all inclination in Sir Charles to pursue the matter any farther, they parted upon very good terms, Sir George promising very soon to return his visit at the castle. Mr. Glanville, upon his father's return, being impatient to know what he had said to Arabella, inquired with so much precipitation concerning the conversation they had had together, that Sir Charles, unwilling to tell him the truth, and not having time to consider of an answer, evaded his question in such a manner that Mr. Glanville could not help making some observation upon it, and, comparing this circumstance with what Arabella had said, though he could not comprehend the meaning that seemed to be concealed under their behaviour, he immediately concluded there was some mystery which it concerned him to find out. Possessed with this opinion, he longed for an opportunity to talk with Arabella alone, but he was not so happy to obtain one, for though that fair one presided at the tea-table as usual, and also appeared at supper, yet she so industriously avoided all occasions of being alone with him, though but for a moment, and appeared so reserved and uneasy, that it was impossible for him to speak to her upon that subject. As soon as it was time to retire, having resolved to request the favour of a few moments' conversation with her in her own apartment, and when he had, as was his custom, handed her upstairs, instead of wishing her a good night at her chamber door, he was going to desire permission to enter it with her, when Lucy, coming to meet her lady, whispered to her in the ear; upon which Arabella, turning towards him, gave him an hasty salute, and hurried into her apartment. Glanville, no less vexed at this disappointment than perplexed at that whisper which had caused such a visible emotion in Arabella, retired to his own room, tormented with 1,000 uneasy suspicions for which he could not exactly assign a cause, and wishing impatiently for the next day, in which he hoped to procure some explanation of what at present greatly perplexed him. In the meantime Arabella, who had been informed by Lucy in that whisper, who was eager to let her know it, that a messenger had brought a letter from Sir George, and, late as it was at night, waited for an answer, was debating with herself whether she should open this billet or not. She had a strong inclination to see what it contained, but, fearful of transgressing the laws of romance by indulging a curiosity not justifiable by example, she resolved to return this letter unopened. "Here," she said to Lucy, "give this letter to the messenger that brought it, and tell him I was excessively offended with you for receiving it from his hands." Lucy, taking the letter, was going to obey her orders, when, recollecting herself, she bid her stay. "Since Sir George," said she to herself, "is no declared lover of mine, I may, without any offence to decorum, see what this letter contains. To refuse receiving it will be to acknowledge that his sentiments are not unknown to me, and, by consequence, to lay myself under a necessity of banishing him. Nor is it fit that I should allow him to believe I am so ready to apprehend the meaning of every gallant speech which is used to me, and to construe such insinuations, as he took the liberty to make me, into declarations of love." Allowing, therefore, the justice of these reasons, she took the letter out of Lucy's hand, and, being upon the point of opening it, a sudden thought controlled her designs. She threw it suddenly upon her toilet, and looking very earnestly upon it, "Presumptuous paper!" said she, speaking with great emotion to the letter. "Bold repository of thy master's daring thoughts! Shall I not be blamed by all who hereafter will hear or read my history, if, contrary to the apprehensions I have that thou containest a confession that will displease me, I open thy seal, and become accessory to thy writer's guilt by deigning to make myself acquainted with it, and thou, too indiscreet and unwary friend, whose folds contain the acknowledgment of his crime? What will it advantage thee of him, if, torn by my resenting hand, I make thee suffer for the part thou bearest in thy master's fault, and teach him by thy fate how little kindness he has to expect from me? Yet, to spare myself the trouble of reading what will, questionless, greatly displease me, I will return thee uninjured into thy master's hands, and by that moderation make him repent the presumption he has been guilty of." End of Book 4, Chapter 8.